My grandmother had a severe car accident which caused bleeding in her brain. I decided to sue the driver who was responsible, but I was shocked to find my wife, Clara, waiting for me at the hospital. She was supposed to be away on an international business trip. She approached me, her expression hard. "Do you have any idea how critical Leo's excellent internship reviews are for him?" she demanded. "His future can't be destroyed over a car accident. You need to drop the lawsuit immediately. If you don't, I will freeze all of your accounts and have your grandmother moved to a regular ward." With that, she turned and left, calling over her shoulder, "You can come home once you've agreed to drop the lawsuit. Otherwise, don't consider yourself my husband any longer." To cover my grandmother's surgery costs, I reached out for help everywhere I could, but I was met with rejection at every turn. It was during this desperate time that a team of lawyers approached me. They informed me that the authorized core technology patent my grandmother had licensed to Momentum Corp., Clara's company, had expired. More importantly, she had already made me the new patent holder. Soon after, when a payment for the hospital failed, I rushed to my wife's office building. "Clara, did you really freeze my accounts for a complete stranger? Don't you realize Grandma needs an urgent craniotomy?" I asked, the memory of her coldness at the hospital fueling my anger. "How could you betray her kindness like this?" Clara looked at me as if I were just an unreasonable, complaining husband. "Ethan, look at yourself," she said dismissively. "What is the point of arguing with me over something that has already happened?" Her tone suggested my grandmother was suffering from a minor cold, not a life-or-death emergency requiring surgery. I stared at the woman I had been married to for 12 years, a cold feeling spreading through my chest as if my heart had fallen into an icy abyss. "Have you forgotten how Momentum Corp even got started?" I pressed on. "Have you forgotten how Grandma shielded you from an attacker years ago, taking a knife wound that left her with permanent health issues? Now you're willing to cut off her chance at survival just to protect an intern? Clara, is there any humanity left in you?" When we first started dating, my grandmother had pulled every string she had to support Clara's startup, helping her with every single detail. For the patent that brought Momentum Corp billions in profits each year, my grandmother only ever took a symbolic fee. You could say that every single achievement of Momentum Corp was built on my grandmother's hard work and generosity. Yet this was how she was being repaid. After I finished speaking, Clara's cold expression shifted to one of pure anger. She picked up her coffee mug and threw it at my feet, where it shattered, sending a shard of ceramic into my ankle. "What is the point of dragging up these old stories?" she yelled. "All you need to do now is drop the lawsuit and make a public statement saying that Grandma fell on her own. Then this will all be over. If you delay this and she misses her window for surgery, her death will be on your hands." I looked at this woman who felt both familiar and like a complete stranger, and a sense of utter desolation washed over me. I remembered when we had just started dating, how she would brave a rainstorm just to take me home, or stay up all night with me if I was sick. She used to worry she wasn't good enough for my family, so she worked tirelessly to earn certifications and told me she would have a child with me anytime I wanted. Now, standing in her office, it felt like I was truly seeing her for the first time. When I didn't respond, she sneered. "Ethan, there's no need to resort to such pathetic tactics just because you're jealous of Leo. You've been my husband for over a decade. Isn't that enough for you?" I stopped trying to argue and turned to leave. My grandmother's surgery fees were an urgent matter. After leaving Momentum Corp., I contacted a few friends who were usually warm and friendly toward me, but today they avoided me as if I were a disease. "Ethan, you rely on your wife now. Going against her isn't going to do you any good," one said. "Just let the car accident go. You don't have any evidence anyway. Stop being so stubborn and go apologize to her." Another told me, "Clara is in a very strong position. We can't help you even if we wanted to." The blazing sun outside felt as cold as the middle of winter, as anger and a sense of injustice surged through me. My phone rang, and it was Clara. Her icy voice cut through the air. "I'm giving you 1 day to drop the lawsuit, or don't blame me for forgetting about our marriage. Leo is waiting to go abroad for an important conference." Before she could continue, I heard Leo's voice interrupt in the background, saying that if it would soothe my feelings, he didn't mind being wronged. "It's just a shame that I've let down your years of mentoring," he added. Clara's voice became even colder. "Ethan, do you want all of us to look bad? Do you think your grandmother wants to see you harassing a bright young talent like him? I'm telling you, even if you refuse, I have my ways." The call ended abruptly. I clenched my fists, and the thought of my grandmother in the ICU filled me with a profound sense of helplessness. 12 years of love couldn't seem to outlast the pressures of time and ambition. The phone rang again, but this time it was the lawyers. "Ethan," one of them said, "the patents your grandmother authorized to Momentum Corp have expired. She transferred them all to you 6 months ago. Some of the most successful groups in the industry were thriving because of that technology. But Clara seemed to have forgotten that her entire success was built upon my grandmother's exclusive patents. The woman who used to follow my grandmother around the lab, diligently taking notes and sneaking snacks to me, had vanished. She had been replaced by the ruthless president of Momentum Corp. Watching my grandmother through the glass of the ICU, my anger swelled. How could Clara so easily support the very person who had hurt her mentor? I promised myself that I would not let Leo get away with this. They would both have to pay the price. The lawyer further explained that my grandmother had prepared the patent transfer before my marriage, which made it my premarital property. Even as my wife, Clara had no legal rights to them. It was afternoon by the time I arrived back at our house. I had originally come just to retrieve some documents, but I found Clara and Leo sitting together on the living room couch. Leo was holding the protective talisman my grandmother had gotten for me years ago. I was furious. "Who told you that you could touch my things?" I yelled. "Put it down and get out of my house." Leo looked startled and quickly retreated behind Clara, playing the part of a victim. "Ethan, it's all over the company that you want to have me arrested over the accident. I can't even stay there anymore," he mumbled, inching toward the door. "I shouldn't have disturbed you and Clara. I'll just head back to the office." But Clara pulled him back, pushing him to sit beside her, even closer than before. "Ethan, I've given you a way out of this," she said sharply. "Withdraw the lawsuit today. Momentum Corp will not tolerate troublemakers like you." Her inverted logic made me feel sick. Not wanting any more drama, I started to go upstairs to gather the evidence I needed. "Clara, remember this," I said, pausing on the stairs. "I'm the one who is choosing to leave you." She was stunned by my words, and her grip on Leo loosened as she grabbed my wrist. "What are you talking about?" she asked. I gave her a cold smirk. "I, Ethan, have no need for second-hand goods." "Say that again," she hissed, her eyes turning red and her voice becoming chillingly cold. The sudden tension startled Leo, and the amulet he was holding fell to the floor, breaking into 2 pieces. I glared at him with rage. "You did that on purpose!" Leo, with wide red eyes, waved his hands defensively. "Clara, I was just surprised by what Ethan said. I can apologize." But Clara shielded him. "It's just a worthless little trinket. There's no need for apologies." She knew perfectly well that my grandmother had that amulet blessed for my protection, yet she belittled it so easily. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress my anger. "I'm leaving. That should make room for you two. Soon, my spot as husband will be available as well. Whoever wants it can have it." Clara understood my sarcasm, and in a fit of rage, smacked me hard across the face, knocking me to the ground. "What nonsense are you spouting?" she screamed. Leo is just a student I've sponsored. I treat him like a brother. You're trying to ruin both of our reputations." As I covered my stinging cheek, the anger inside me dissolved, leaving only a hollow void. After 12 years, she had hit me for the first time, and it was for Leo. Without any mercy, Clara tossed my luggage out the front door. "Ethan, don't think you can control me. I don't care where you go. You have half a day left to drop that lawsuit." The door slammed shut. I silently picked up my luggage and headed directly to the law office. I got a hold of all my grandmother's patent transfer documents. Looking at the thick stack of papers that represented her life's work, my eyes welled up with tears. The lawyer handed me a contract. "Ethan," he said, "Apex Innovations is willing to offer $1.2 billion for a 5-year patent license. Are you interested in negotiating with them?" That evening, alongside my grandmother's legal team, I successfully signed the deal with Apex. As soon as the advance payment came through, I immediately arranged for my grandmother to be transferred to the best hospital in the city to receive top-tier surgery. The next day, I received an invitation from Apex Innovations to attend a major industry summit. I never would have expected to run into Clara and Leo there. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" Leo asked, his gaze flitting between me and Sophia, the CEO of Apex Innovations. His tone was full of mockery. "Even if Clara was a bit harsh with you yesterday, it's not like you to cheat on her so quickly, is it?" he sneered. "And with a loser from a rival company, how embarrassing." Apex Innovations had recently become a rising star in the tech world and was Momentum Corp's biggest competitor. With my grandmother's patents, Momentum had always held a significant advantage over them. I stared coldly at Leo's idle chatter, and thinking he had hit a nerve, he became even bolder. "As long as you apologize and drop the lawsuit, Clara will forgive everything. By making her look bad publicly like this, how can you even call yourself her husband?" Before I could reply, Clara walked up, snarling at me. "Ethan, have you not had enough? Airing out our dirty laundry in public? And I'm the one who has to be here to school you on your behavior? You're over 30 years old, and you're behaving worse than an intern. You should really reflect on yourself." Sophia frowned, and was about to explain the situation, but I just shook my head at her. "What I do is none of your business," I told Clara. Annoyed, she smirked. "Being the husband of the Momentum Corp CEO doesn't concern me? What nonsense. Your deadline is up. If you don't drop the lawsuit, I will indeed cut off your grandmother's medical resources." I chuckled lightly. "Do as you wish." Clara froze, her eyes narrowing at me. "Yesterday you were fighting me for your grandmother, but now you just abandon her for another woman? You're not being a filial grandson, you're just trying to oppose me. And do you really think Apex Innovations can defeat Momentum Corp? Remember, Momentum holds your grandmother's core technology patents." She leaned in closer. "Just be obedient, and you'll always be my husband, and your grandmother will be fine." I no longer cared about being her husband. With tears in my eyes, I raised my hand ready to slap her. But just then, Leo suddenly interjected, splashing a glass of red wine all over me. "Ethan, making a scene here only shames Clara," he said. Drenched in wine, I must have been a sorry sight. Clara only watched me coldly while she took out a handkerchief to wipe the wine off Leo's hand. "I'm stopping your grandmother's medical resources now," she said. "Remember, you did this to her." Ignoring her, I went to the restroom to change into a spare set of clothes. I said my goodbyes to Sophia and left the venue. Before I left, I could already hear others congratulating Clara, assuming she would secure the summit's main partnership, as she always did. As I was at the roadside waiting for a ride, Sophia rushed out. "Ethan, Clara won't affect our deal, right?" she asked, clearly worried that I might still favor my wife. I shook my head. "Once I've made a decision, I don't look back." As I opened the car door, I glanced back at the venue one last time. Clara was standing there holding her phone, staring at me from across the distance. Suddenly, she dashed over, blocking the car door just as I was about to get in. Her phone was still on a call. "Miss Clara, you heard me correctly." Her secretary's voice came through the speaker. "Ethan's grandmother has been transferred. The patent license to us has expired and been revoked. We are no longer qualified to participate in the summit." The words hit her like a bombshell. Clara's face turned pale as she shoved the phone in my face. "Ethan, explain this." Leo hurried over, trembling as he snatched the phone and began sifting through the patent files the secretary had sent. "Ethan, how can you take back something you've already given?" he stammered. "Is this the kind of upbringing you get from your family?" Clara, her eyes reddened, snapped at me. "Sign the contract again and I'll forgive everything." She pushed an electronic contract over to me, but the offer was only for a few million, which was utterly ridiculous. "Sorry," I said calmly. "The patent has already been sold." The silence that followed was palpable. Clara glared at Sophia with venom in her eyes. "Did you sell it to her? Are you insane? Cancel the deal right now." I stared at her coldly, completely unfazed. "Why would I forsake a $1.2 billion offer for you?" $1.2 billion? Leo cried out. "She must have bought more than just the patent, right, Ethan? Did you do something shady?" He looked me up and down, implying something foul. Sophia, now exasperated, called for security. "Restrain your people. If there is any more slander, I will pursue legal action. The patents Maria licensed to Momentum Corp have expired. Any legitimate transaction is legally safeguarded." Guards quickly surrounded them. Clara glared at me frostily, her emotions unreadable. "Ethan, you will regret this," she said. Leo attempted to speak again, but was silenced by Sophia's stare, and followed Clara out of the venue. I smiled at Sophia. "Thanks for your help." She replied heartily, "Ethan, here's to our successful collaboration." At the summit's conclusion, Apex Innovations secured all the major partnerships, breaking Momentum Corp's long-held monopoly on resources, all thanks to my grandmother's patents. Just then, the hospital called. "Mr. Ethan, your grandmother is awake." I declined Sophia's dinner invitation and rushed to the hospital. Clara had clutched her phone so tightly that her knuckles turned white. She had assumed it was just another car accident, one she could handle with money or influence, just like she always did. Leo, a rookie intern she sponsored, had hit someone. Her plan had been simple: settle it quietly and protect his promising career. After all, to her, Leo was the future of Momentum Corp, while I, Ethan, was just her husband who should follow her lead. She never saw it coming. Not only did I call the police, but I also took back my grandmother's patent, effectively cutting off the lifeline of her entire company. She had tried freezing my accounts and threatening to cut off medical resources to make me back down, but she had severely underestimated my resolve. "Ethan, don't be mad at Clara. She's just doing all of this for the good of the company," Leo had spoken softly, trying to take her hand with a sycophantic tone. But Clara had pushed his hand away, her eyes full of annoyance. Normally, Leo's familiar gestures didn't bother her, but on that day, it just rubbed her the wrong way. The memory of my cold look at the summit left a tight feeling in her chest. She told herself it was I who had blown a minor issue out of proportion and cost her the summit spot. Yet she couldn't shake an inexplicable feeling of emptiness inside. "Clara, are we going home now?" Leo asked cautiously. She was silent for a moment, then gritted her teeth and said, "To the hospital." She was still clinging to a sliver of hope, thinking I was bluffing. She believed the story about the transfer of my grandmother and the $1.2 billion deal were just smokescreens created by Apex Innovations. She was convinced that as long as she showed up in person, I would yield as I always had, begging for her forgiveness. But when she arrived at the hospital, she saw that it was all real. My grandmother had been moved to a VIP ward with a dedicated care team, and the surgery had already been a success. Clara stood at the door, looking through the glass as I spoke quietly to my grandmother. She felt her chest tighten. "Ethan, you came." Grandma spoke weakly, her gaze flickering past me to Leo, her pupils narrowing in recognition. He was the young man who had hit her with his car. Leo laughed lightly, his tone taunting. "Maria, do you have any idea what your grandson did? The excellent care you're receiving now is all thanks to him trading Momentum Corp's secrets for it. He's really shameless, all just to get back at Clara." This wasn't the first time Leo had said something like this, and usually Clara would have dismissed it as youthful arrogance, but now it grated on her nerves. My grandmother suddenly tried to sit up, her face pale with anger as her heart rate soared on the monitor beside her bed. "You're lying! You're the one who hit me, and now you're lying about it." Clara tried to stop Leo, but she heard the loud sound of a slap. I had rushed into the room and landed a hard slap across Leo's face. "Grandma just had surgery and you're here provoking her? What exactly is your plan?" I demanded. "Instead of spouting nonsense, maybe you should think about how you're going to defend yourself in court tomorrow. The judge won't be fooled by you." I grabbed Leo's collar in a fiery rage. Clara clutched my wrist, whispering threats. "I warned you not to blow this up, and you still want to charge him? Your grandmother is awake, so this ends now. I'm telling you, I got rid of all the evidence. Going to court will only end up embarrassing yourself." I shook off her grip with a cold sneer. "How the case ends is for the judge to decide, and you are not welcome here. After Leo's case is wrapped up, we'll settle ours. Clara, I'm divorcing you." Saying the word divorce was easier than I thought. In that moment, it felt completely right. 12 years of marriage had turned into nothing more than a farce. Clara stood frozen, as if she had misheard me, never imagining I would be so resolute. After all, in 12 years, she knew how much I cared for her. "What nonsense are you talking about?" she finally said, her face turning ashen, her voice laced with anger. "I just favored Leo a little bit, and you're doing this? Or did you get cozy with Sophia and now you think she's on your side?" She still thought I was just being jealous, perhaps even playing some kind of reverse psychology game, but this marriage was something I truly didn't want anymore. "Grandma raised me for 30 years, while I've only known you for 12. What makes you think I would ever gamble with Grandma's life?" I retorted coldly. Clara was at a loss for words, looking terrible. The heavy atmosphere in the hospital room was suffocating. Arguing any further was pointless. I didn't want to disturb my grandmother's rest, so I called the hospital security directly. They quickly arrived, and Clara left with Leo, tossing a final jab over her shoulder. "With no evidence, let's see how you manage to get Leo convicted in court. You'll come crawling back to me." Leo shot me a challenging look, and then left with her. As the room quieted down, my grandmother coughed lightly. I focused on her bandaged head and the monitoring devices, my eyes misting over. My parents were gone, and she had raised me with all the warmth and love in the world. But now, she looked as fragile as a candle in the wind. Grasping her hand, tears ran down my face. Silent as always, she just patted my back, supporting my decision. I resolved then and there to get justice for her. The next day, armed with a folder of evidence, I arrived at court early. Clara and Leo were already there. Leo had brought along colleagues and mentors from work, all there to proclaim his innocence. Upon seeing my pile of evidence, however, Leo just sneered. "Clara, where did he get all this made-up evidence? Fakes won't hold up in court." I smirked back at him. The judge only looks at the facts. My confidence seemed to shake Leo for a moment, but he quickly composed himself, certain that Clara's tactics would prevail as they always had. He sat up straight and smugly declared, "With Clara backing me, you're going to lose. She even said that if she gets a divorce, I'll become a shareholder at Momentum Corp." He tittered, nestling up beside Clara, who openly doted on him, stroking his shoulder. I remained unfazed. The court session convened. Due to pressure from Momentum Corp, the witnesses only offered written statements, avoiding the stand. Clara, looking restless, snapped, "This barely counts as evidence. Stop wasting my time." Then, my lawyer presented the clinching piece of evidence. I smiled at Clara. "Wait for it. The show is just getting started." The traffic camera footage from the scene was displayed for the court, and it was enough to make a significant impact. Leo went pale. The screen clearly showed him behind the wheel, rushing through a red light and hitting my grandmother. It showed him leaving her bleeding on the ground and then driving off without so much as a backward glance. I had to shut my eyes, suppressing the anguish of seeing my grandmother in such pain again. I dug my nails into my palms, determined that Leo would pay the price. "This can't be! It's fake!" Leo screamed, jumping up from his seat. "He used AI to fake the video and frame me. I wasn't even driving that day, let alone involved in a hit and run." Clara stood up too, her tone firm. I questioned the authenticity of this evidence. They obviously didn't believe it was real. The first time I had tried to get the surveillance footage, I was blocked at every turn. The property management and the traffic police both kept putting me off, and then they eventually gave me a doctored video, one where my grandmother simply fell on her own with no car accident involved. I argued with them, but they insisted it was the truth and told me to stop causing trouble. The power of Momentum Corp was like a huge net, capable of blocking out the sky and turning black into white. But Momentum Corp wasn't nearly as influential after they lost my grandmother's patent. With some connections from Apex Innovations, I was eventually able to reach a surveillance manager who refused to be bought and finally got the original untampered video. That's what led to the bombshell in the courtroom. "He just wants to ruin me." Leo turned to the court audience, trying to gain their sympathy. "He's jealous of my success, so he used a fake video to smear my name. I'm not that kind of person." But the video evidence was right there for everyone to see. And the audience remained silent. Leo's voice got weaker, tinged with panic. "Ethan, I'm going to sue you for defamation." The judge banged the gavel, sternly saying, "Quiet. This is not a place for arguing." The video was sent to a professional institution for verification, and the results showed no signs of tampering. Not only that, but we also submitted other surveillance footage from nearby shops to reconstruct the incident from multiple angles. Apex Innovations had even convinced a witness to testify in person. She pointed directly at Leo, her voice trembling but firm. "It was him. He hit the person, and then he ran. I saw it with my own eyes." I stood up, faced the judge and everyone present, and revealed even more truths. Leo didn't just drive drunk this one time, he's done it before. Over the years, he has used the power of Momentum Corp to force victims to sign waivers or to twist the truth in court. If I hadn't found solid evidence this time, the injustice done to my grandmother might never have been uncovered. The audience reacted with shock. Leo's colleagues and mentor whispered among themselves, their supportive expressions turning skeptical. The courtroom was being live-streamed, which triggered a heated discussion online, with countless netizens speaking up in support of my grandmother. "A top-notch university intern being so shameless," one comment read. "Momentum Corp's Clara is even worse, covering up for a criminal and ditching her own benefactor. Truly heartless." Another said, "Support Ethan. We can't let this couple get away scot-free." With ironclad evidence against him, Leo finally broke down, sobbing as he looked at Clara. "Clara, I don't want to go to jail. Please save me." But even Clara was unsteady now. She never thought I would go this far for my grandmother, tearing our entire relationship apart and ruining both her and Momentum Corp's reputation in the process. She glared at me, her eyes a mix of resentment and other complicated emotions. But I faced her gaze fearlessly. When the gavel finally fell, Clara's expression changed completely. Leo was sentenced, and his dream of being an outstanding intern was officially over. As he was being taken away, he cried and grabbed Clara's sleeve, begging, "Clara, save me! I don't want to go to jail!" Clara pushed him away and slapped him hard. "What did you do in Momentum Corp's name that you had to bring such shame to me? Funding you was the biggest mistake of my life." Seeing Clara turn on him, Leo truly lost it. "You said you would make me a core member of Momentum Corp. You lied. You're just throwing me out there to save Ethan, making me take the fall for everything. Clara, you can't have a good end." Clara's face was pale. "Without you, Ethan wouldn't have been so against me. You ruined my marriage, and you expect to get into Momentum Corp's higher-ups? Dream on!" Leo collapsed to the ground, his hair disheveled, looking nothing like his usual cocky self. He struggled towards me, kneeling and bowing his head. "Ethan, I was wrong. I'll apologize to Maria. I'll do anything for your family. Just please don't send me to jail. Give me another chance." I looked at him coldly, feeling no sympathy. Leo had been so arrogant before, doing whatever he wanted with Clara's protection. He never stopped to think that the people he had hurt had also begged for mercy. Leo's forehead started to bleed from his bowing, but I just turned and left without a word. Outside the courtroom, Clara stopped me. I casually threw the divorce papers at her. "Sign these soon. Let's get the procedure done in a few days." Her hand trembled slightly as she took them. "Are you serious? You're not just mad at me?" I stayed silent, letting my eyes give her the answer. "I don't agree," she said, clenching her fists. "There is nothing going on between me and Leo. You can't force me to divorce you over baseless reasons. Grandma is still waiting for us to watch the sunrise at the beach, remember? We promised to fix up the old house together next year, didn't you?" Listening to these past promises, I sneered. "When you froze my accounts and cut off Grandma's medical resources for Leo, did you think of all that? If Grandma hadn't prepared ahead of time, she might not even be alive right now. You think I don't know how many times you met Leo secretly? You even brought him to company events, gave him special treatment, and set him as a priority. I have been giving you chances. But what about you?" Clara's face turned pale. She opened her mouth but couldn't find any words. I turned towards the exit and pushed open the door. She shouted behind me, "I won't sign it!" I paused and looked back coldly. "If you don't, I will find a way." Without my grandmother's patent, Clara was a shadow of her former self. Momentum Corp lost multiple core projects after the patent went to Apex, and Leo's case going public only worsened the storm, sending their stock plummeting. The core team, unhappy about Clara's actions, jumped ship to Apex Innovations. Clara scrambled to save her company, running herself ragged day and night. But she still took the time every day to visit my grandmother at the hospital, hoping to somehow regain the patent rights. My grandmother calmly accepted her visits but never once mentioned the patent. She would occasionally smile lightly and say, "Clara, let bygones be bygones." These words gave Clara a sliver of hope that there was still room to maneuver. The day my grandmother was discharged, Clara came again. She stood outside the hospital room, looking exhausted with bloodshot eyes. The once proud CEO of Momentum Corp now looked like a tired, ordinary woman. "Ethan, let's go home," she said, cautiously reaching for my luggage. Her voice was careful and soft. I avoided her hand coldly. When will you sign the divorce papers? Clara bit her lip, a hint of panic flashing in her eyes. Can you give me another chance? We've been married for 12 years. Are you really okay with throwing all of that away? Seeing that I remained unmoved, she turned to my grandmother, her voice trembling. Grandma, please talk to him. We're family. Can you just watch us fall apart like this? My grandmother, sitting in her wheelchair, was gentle but firm. Clara, I gave you that patent, hoping that you would treat Ethan well, but you used it to abuse your power, and you even hurt him. Even if Ethan didn't ask for a divorce, I would not let you continue to hurt him. Clara stumbled backward, clutching her head as if she couldn't bear the words. Ethan, I swear I'll treat you well from now on. Please don't leave me. I can't live without you. Her voice was sincere, just like it was when we first got married. She used to make me soup late at night and promise me a lifetime together. But she couldn't keep those promises. The trust we once had was completely crushed by her coldness and betrayal. I watched her silently, about to speak, when a few police officers walked into the room. Clara, you are under suspicion of commercial bribery and evidence destruction. Please come with us. Clara froze and looked at me with disbelief. Did you call the police? I shook my head. You know what you did. After the incident with Leo, Apex Innovations had secretly investigated Momentum Corp's finances. They found that she had used company funds to bribe people and had destroyed evidence to cover up Leo's repeated misdeeds. Those crimes were now the chains she had to bear. As she was taken away, Clara's face was full of tears. She looked back at me as if she had just lost the most precious thing in her life. But I didn't look at her again. I just pushed my grandmother's wheelchair out of the hospital. A few days later, I received the divorce papers from the detention center, bearing Clara's signature. I had finally ended our 12-year marriage. With the new year, Momentum Corp faced bankruptcy. Its former glory turned into nothing. Meanwhile, Apex Innovations, using my grandmother's patents, quickly rose up and became an industry leader. Encouraged by my grandmother, I decided to go back to school and study management. She stayed at home resting, sometimes going through her old notes and working on new technological ideas. She often said, Ethan, there's a long road ahead. We have to keep moving forward. I sold the house that Clara and I had shared, clearing out all the old things. That part of my past felt like dust blown away by the wind, leaving no trace behind. I started a small tech company focusing on medical technology development. My grandmother smiled and said, holding the reins in your own hands, that's real confidence. I believe the future for my grandmother and me will be bright and sunny. 6 months later, my company secured its first major medical equipment development project in collaboration with Apex Innovations. My grandmother's health continued to improve, and she would occasionally visit the company to offer advice. Her insights always sparked new ideas in the team. One day I received an anonymous email with a recording attached. When I played it, I heard Clara's voice, weary and full of regret. Ethan, if I could do it all over again, I'd never let Leo ruin us. The recording was patchy, as if she had secretly made it from the detention center. She mentioned how she had initially supported Leo, not just for his talent, but because being around him made her feel at ease in her high-pressure career. She thought she could handle everything, but Leo's ambition and her own indulgence became the straws that broke our marriage. I never thought I would really lose you, she ended, her voice choking. I listened in silence for a long time, and then I deleted the recording. Clara's remorse came too late, and I no longer needed her explanations. As my company found its footing, I began to sponsor underprivileged students with only one condition. They must be honest and trustworthy. My grandmother would often smile and say, Ethan, you're passing on the kindness that you received back then. One evening, as I was sitting with my grandmother watching the sunset, she suddenly asked, "Ethan, have you ever thought about finding someone else? Life is long. Don't let the past hold you back." I smiled. "Grandma, I'm doing well as is. Being alone isn't so bad. When the time is right, it will happen." She nodded, her eyes full of contentment. The sun set, casting a warm glow over the yard. I knew our new chapter had quietly begun,